You're listening to the Life Coaching Secrets Podcast, episode 236.
Did you know that life coaches are needed now more than ever? I'm Frank Macri, founder of Thriving Coach Academy. I've trained over 1,000 coaches and helped them launch their own successful coaching businesses. If you want to make an incredible income and impact as a coach and have a lot of fun doing it, I'll show you exactly how to get it done. This is Life Coaching Secrets.
What's up, coaches? In this episode, we're going to talk about how your mind works. How do our thoughts become thoughts? And what are the most important things, especially as a coach, you want to know about thoughts and thought work if you want to make an impact with your clients. Now, what sparked this episode is a few months ago, I was talking with a close friend who is a coach as well. She runs a full-time coaching business. And she was telling me how she was visiting some of her family during the holidays, and she came back saying that all her family talked about was drama and stress. Now, have you ever had this experience as well? And she asked me, why is this? Why is it that some people, all that they talk about is the drama and the stress in their lives? And I said, well, one of the reasons is because they don't know how their mind works. Most people don't realize how much control they have over their thinking. And as a coach, it's not that we don't have stress in our lives, but we know how to shift out of it and take ownership of our thoughts. And for the majority of the population, they don't know how our thoughts work. So in this episode, I want to go back to the basics. I want to walk you through the core understandings about your mind that will help you unlock transformation, not just in coaching, but in your everyday life. I'm going to go over how our thoughts work. And if you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or just at the mercy of your mind, this episode will change how you relate to your thoughts forever. And I'm also going to share why the coaching methodology I created, the Rulebook Coaching method, is the best form of thought work you can do. So let's get into it. Number one, you are not your thoughts. Now, a lot of people go through their life believing every thought that crosses their mind. A thought appears and they automatically assume that it's true, as if it came from some kind of ultimate authority. But the truth is, you are not your thoughts. Thoughts are not facts. Thoughts, they're also not always rational. They're not always kind, and they're not always helpful, and they're certainly not you. A thought is just a sentence in our mind. It might feel true sometimes, especially when it's been repeated for years or it's emotionally charged, but it's still just a thought. It's just a mental event. And it could come from past experiences. It can come from conditioning, fears, other people's opinions, even something random that your brain pulls up while you're trying to keep yourself safe or just make sense of the world. But just because a thought appears, it doesn't mean that it deserves your belief. I'll say it one more time. Just because a thought appears doesn't mean it deserves your belief. Let's say you're driving, minding your own business, and someone cuts you off in traffic. Suddenly your brain starts screaming nasty thoughts about that person. Now, does that mean you're this violent, unhinged maniac for having all of these terrible thoughts about the person? No, it means you're human and thoughts just appeared. You didn't summon those thoughts. You didn't carefully consider those thoughts. Your brain was just reacting. And you are not those thoughts. You are the observer of those thoughts, right? You are in the seat of consciousness. You are the observer of the thoughts. You get to laugh at the thoughts. You get to shake your head and say, wow, thanks, brain. I noticed how that brought quite a reaction up for me. Saying that you are not your thoughts, it's like realizing that the sky is not the weather, right? The sky is vast and stable. The weather changes. Sometimes it's stormy, it's sunny, it's foggy. Another way to say it is you are the sky and your thoughts are just the weather. They're like the clouds and the storms and the sunshine, but the sky is always there. You can observe your thoughts without being defined by them. right? Just because there is a storm doesn't mean the sky is broken. Now imagine that you're walking into a room full of people that you don't know and the thought pops up. The thought, they probably won't like me. Has that ever happened to you? That thought will feel real in the moment. It might trigger some self-doubt, anxiety, make you shrink a little bit. But you can pause and tell yourself, that's just a thought. That's not a fact. I notice this thought's trying to keep me safe. It's just not serving me right now. That is what it means and looks like to observe your thoughts and not become your thoughts. There's a space between your thoughts and the truth. And you create that space. You choose what to ultimately believe. You stay as the sky, even when the weather gets cloudy. Okay, the second idea is that a thought can expire. So now that we've talked about how a thought is you are not your thoughts, the second thing to understand is that thoughts can expire. So the way that our mind works is that our mind is wired to repeat what's familiar, even if it's a thought that could be harmful or limiting, especially the primitive part of our brain. And I have an episode I'm coming out with very soon about the neuroscience of coaching and more about the brain and how it impacts our thoughts. But there's the primitive part of our brain that prefers consistency over the truth, right? That's why sometimes your clients will actually argue for their limitations. They have a rule book that they are following that might not be their ultimate truth, but it might just feel familiar, so their brain keeps choosing it. So for example, like someone might cling to the belief that success requires sacrifice or success requires hard work or suffering. Sure that you've heard that idea before, even when it leads to people burning out, because that thought feels familiar. It might feel known. The mind loves to have patterns, even if those patterns are hurtful. The brain is all about patterns. So it's going to repeat what's familiar, even if that pattern is harmful. And that's why people recreate the same emotional experiences in different situations. For example, if you find that you're always feeling underappreciated or you're always noticing that you sabotage your success, the mind gets into these patterns. And often the rule book we have is originally created to protect us, right? They were once useful rules and thoughts, but they may no longer serve your growth. The mind starts to build these patterns. Like for me, one of the old rules that I had growing up and in my early adult years was to think that my voice didn't matter. I shouldn't speak up. It was dangerous or scary to speak up and share my voice and my message. And that was just the rule that I lived within for such a long time. And then I realized eventually that this thought expired. It no longer served me. It was just a familiar thought, but it wasn't a real thought for me anymore. So I talked about this concept of the rule book a few times, and I've mentioned it in other episodes. But if you're new here, the rule book is a concept that I teach our students about. It's our signature tool that we teach our coaches is the Rulebook Coaching method. And the idea about it, the idea behind it is that we all have these rule books that determine how we show up in our lives. And these rules are the assumptions and expectations and beliefs that we have about ourselves and others and the world at large. And whenever we're looking to grow, we must examine the rules that need to be changed, because what got you here won't get you there. So whenever you're looking, coaching is a process of transformation. So it means that we need to change some thoughts that we are having. We need to let the old rules expire and make space for the new rules. Another example, let's say that you have a client who is avoiding dating because they are afraid of being they're afraid of experiencing rejection. They might have a rule that's telling them it's safer to be alone than to be hurt. And that might be a thought that protected them for a really long time, but now it's keeping them stuck. So that thought has expired, right? If it's keeping you stuck from evolving into the person you want to be or having the life you want to have, then that is now an expired thought. In a Thriving Coach Academy, we call that an old rule. So we can thank the mind for its protection and then still choose new thoughts that align with your current goals and values. We can choose new thoughts that align with the person that you want to be. So we all have those unconscious expectations, the rule book, we call it, about how we should behave, how we should live, who we should be. These are all invisible scripts that will create disappointment, resentment, pressure, and self-judgment. Everyone walks around with their own mental rule book about how the world should operate. And these are formed in our upbringing, our past, our culture, unconscious beliefs. But a lot of people don't realize that they have them, and they just experience the same frustrations, disappointments, and self-doubts because they know that their life is that the life they want to have is not matching the rules that they're playing by. Something needs to give. And this is why a lot of people live on autopilot, because they don't have the awareness that they're just running on their default programming. They're living out old rules, old thoughts without even questioning them. And this is why coaching is so powerful, because it disrupts this autopilot and it invites people to consciously live. It brings people to the surface so they can reevaluate what are the rules that they're playing the game of life with. And what do they want to change? And once people become aware of these rules, they can decide whether certain rules have expired, whether those rules still serve them. And that's what leads us to our next big idea, which is that you have control over your thoughts. Okay, so even though we all have these rule books, our rules can be rewritten. They are not set in stone. You're not stuck with the rules that you inherited from your culture, your past, and your upbringing. A rule book isn't fixed. It's a dynamic thing. It's not a life sentence. If a belief no longer helps you live the life you want to live, you can update that. Now, this doesn't mean ignoring reality and being delusional. It means choosing thoughts that support your growth and your peace instead of stress and limitation. So when you become aware of your rules, you can challenge your rules, update them, delete ones that no longer serve you. This is what opens doors in your life to have more freedom and more authenticity. So one very common old rule that a lot of people have is they think that if they make a mistake, that they are a failure. If they pursue something and they make a mistake, they're a failure. But a new rule could be, if I make a mistake, I'm learning and evolving. This is a new rule that we invite our students to have when they go through Thriving Coach Academy, because we want them to realize that they're going to make mistakes. It doesn't mean that they're a failure. It doesn't mean something's wrong. It just means that they are learning. So we have a really positive culture in our program around mistakes. We celebrate it. So a thought is not a fact. It's a choice. And you always have the option to choose what you want to think. Just because you had a thought or a rule for a long time, just because so many other people believe that thought or rule, it doesn't mean it has to be true for you. You and your clients can change your experience by changing how you think, not necessarily by changing external circumstances. Right? So if, for example, in a session, if you have a client that says, I'm not good enough to be successful, it's very powerful when you can insert yourself as the coach and say, okay, so you're having this rule that you are not good enough to be successful. Because when you say that, when you let your client realize that they're just having a rule, it reminds them that they're choosing that thought, whether consciously or not. And that's the beginning to creating change. When you take what they say that they think is fact and tell them it's just a thought, it's just a rule. Right? When you understand that your thoughts are a choice, then it also helps you not take things personally as well. So sometimes we have certain interpretations around other people's behavior. Especially if you do relationship coaching, a lot of people will take other people's actions personally when really nothing is personal. So what I love to do sometimes with clients is I will invite them to share 5 reasons why that other person's behavior has nothing to do with them for whatever it is they took personally. So I call it the what else can be true game. That way they see that their thoughts are not facts. They can choose how they want to interpret any situation. So like if someone doesn't text you back, your brain gives you the thought, well, they're ignoring me. I must have said something wrong. They don't like me anymore. But what else can be true? Well, maybe their phone died, or maybe they opened the message and they got distracted by a squirrel, or maybe they're binge watching a show and they decided to swear off all social interaction until the finale, or maybe they wrote a reply in their head and they thought they sent it. There's so many different interpretations that have nothing to do with you. And when we can choose what we want to believe, this is empowering. This is how we don't stay stuck ruminating and stressing ourselves out, right? This is also what makes coaching so powerful, because it helps people realize how they can rewire their mental patterns. Now, sometimes people say, well, what if a thought like actually is true? Well, you could still ask yourself, even if this thought is true, is it useful and does it serve you to focus on it? Like sometimes people will say and realize, I don't know where this thought came from, but that thought, it doesn't belong to me. So I'm not going to think it. I'm not going to focus on it. The moment you see your thoughts as optional, you regain your power. So for example, maybe you want to start a coaching business, but you have a thought that you've never run a business before. And maybe that's true, right? You don't have to be delusional and just think, well, no, it's not true. Yeah. I mean, when I got started as a coach, I had never run a coaching business before. It goes back to asking yourself, okay, even if that's true, does it serve you to focus on that? And if not, then what do you want to focus on? What does it serve you to focus on? And I realized for me, it was realizing everyone starts somewhere. I'm learning how to build a business right now. Like you might have a thought, oh, there's so many other coaches out there. And yeah, like that's true. There are a lot of coaches out there. I mean, if you look at pretty much any industry that you want to get into, if you want to become a therapist, if you want to become a doctor, if you want to become a personal trainer, like there's so many of those already in existence. What does it serve you to focus on? For me, when I got into coaching, I realized, yeah, there are maybe many coaches, but there's only one me. And I know that's also true as well. And that's what serves me to focus on. And this can be true for you too. Borrow it if it's going to help you. Yeah, there's many other coaches, but there's only one you. There's only one person with your story, your essence, your energy, your personality, and that automatically makes you stand out. Now, maybe you're having a thought, I've failed at things before, and maybe there's truth to that. But like, haven't we all? And does your past really define your future? I remember when I was talking with one of our newer coaches, they had this thought they kept coming back to, which is thinking, well, I failed at other things in the past. And a new thought that they had, like they're not neglecting things that have happened in their past, but what they did is just realize all of those past failures have given me insights that I can now use to help others. Like all of those failures gave me lessons. We all have experienced failure in our past, right? So you get to decide how you want to let those past experiences define you. They don't have to hold you back. They can propel you forward. A lot of people don't realize they have this type of agency over their thoughts. They think their thoughts are just happening to them. But when we observe our thoughts, we challenge these rules and we choose which ones we want to give power to. This is what leads to breakthroughs and transformation. When our coaches use Rulebook Coaching in their sessions, their clients have breakthroughs within just a few minutes into the sessions. It is so incredible to witness once they start getting it. Now, we all have thoughts about our identity as well. And one of the most common traps that people fall into is believing that their identity is set in stone. So you'll hear things like, I've just never been a confident person, or I'm just not the type of person to speak up. That's just not who I am. I'm just not a natural born leader, or it's just not my personality. Have you ever been guilty of saying these things about yourself? Or maybe have you heard someone share these thoughts? All of those thoughts are not facts. They are just practiced thoughts, sentences that you've repeated so often that you start actually thinking they're your personality. Your identity, I really want you to understand, your identity is not something that you discover once and for all. It is something that you create moment by moment through what you believe and what you want to allow yourself to imagine. Your identity is not a fixed label. It is a living story. And with awareness, with coaching, you turn the page. When someone realizes that they're the author of their rule book, they're not just the actor in it, they're the author of it. And that's when you start reclaiming your power. So you don't need permission. This is the final concept that I want to share. You don't need anyone's permission to believe a new thought, nor do you need evidence of a new thought if you want to believe it. This one's really big. A lot of people wait until the outside world gives them approval before they let themselves think a new thought. They believe that they can't, for example, call themselves successful until maybe they've hit a specific number. They can't think that they're capable or that they will be successful until someone else says it first or until they have evidence of it. They might not believe the thought that they're lovable until someone proves it to them. But the truth is, you don't need to earn a thought. You don't need permission from your bank account, your resume, your parents, or your past to think something bold and empowering. You get to choose your thoughts, and you can choose new thoughts today. Right? You don't need to wait for proof before you can think something helpful. You don't need evidence to start thinking that you're capable or that things are working out for you. In fact, the ironic thing is thinking those thoughts is often what generates these thoughts like that you're capable and that things are going to work out for you. Those are the thoughts that generate the evidence that you're waiting for. So belief is not a reward. Like you don't need to earn a belief as a reward. It can actually be the engine that creates the belief. I want to say that one more time. Belief doesn't have to be a reward for certain success. It could be the engine that creates it. Now, here's where it gets really wild. Your brain is already making up thoughts all day long, and many of those thoughts are untrue and unhelpful, right? You might have thoughts that you're behind or that people are judging you, or you might think, I don't know if this is all gonna work out. Your brain is going to be making up all these thoughts, but a lot of those thoughts might not even have evidence, yet people still believe certain thoughts without question. Right? Like even your negative thoughts, they might not have evidence, yet your brain is focusing on them. So why be strict with the positive thoughts, but casual with the self-critical ones? If your brain's going to make things up anyway, why not make up something useful, something that's going to help you show up bigger and braver and more aligned? You don't need to ask, am I allowed to think this? What if someone disagrees? Because you're the only one living in your mind. So you're allowed to think that you are already enough. Or what I like even better than that is that you're the kind of person who can figure things out. You deserve good things. Even if you've never thought it before, it's probably going to feel awkward at first when you try on a new thought. It's like trying on a new pair of shoes. Even if it's the right size, it still takes a moment to break in the new shoes, right? Even if no one said it to you. The boldest and most successful people on the planet didn't wait for evidence. They created evidence by thinking thoughts that stretch them. So I'm going to give you I call them try-on thoughts that you can try on even without having evidence. And this is especially useful if you are an aspiring coach. So you can have the new thought, someone is already out there waiting for someone like you. Someone is out there already waiting for someone like you. Even if you haven't signed a client yet, you're allowed to believe that thought. It's safe for you to take up space. Even if you feel like an imposter, having that thought can be huge. It's safe for you to take up space. Another thought, you are becoming the kind of person who builds a thriving business. I love that phrase, I am becoming, right? I'm becoming the kind of person who. So even if your business is just an idea in your head right now, you can still think this thought, I'm becoming the kind of person who builds a thriving business, right? Isn't there part of you that can at least believe that right now? Another thought is you can help people right now exactly as you are. Even if you're still in the learning phase or the early stages of learning coaching, you can still help people right now as you are. Your voice has value. Even if you've been quiet for most of your life, like I relate to this because I silenced myself for so many years and I had this recurring thought that I didn't have any value. My voice didn't matter. I still allowed myself to believe, you know what? My voice has value. And I want you to try that thought on for yourself also if you know it's going to support you. So pick whatever thought it is that you wish you could believe, even if you don't feel ready for it. I want you to practice trying it on anyway. You don't need to prove it. You just need to try it on, right? Imagine like you're shopping for clothes. You don't need to go to the checkout with it. You're just trying it on. There's no harm in trying on a new thought. That's how belief is actually built. It might not feel true yet, but you're going to think it and see where it leads you. And if it leads you to somewhere better, great, you can keep it. That's how breakthroughs happen in coaching. You can choose to believe something new, or at least try on a new thought right now. Now, if you really want to become a master at thought work, because obviously I can geek out about this for hours and hours, the most powerful path is to learn the Rulebook Coaching method. Because behind every recurring thought, every stuck pattern, every emotional spiral, there's a rule that the mind is quietly following. And when you know how to spot those rules and rewrite them with your clients, you don't just help them shift a thought, you're helping them change the way that they think entirely. It is by far the most effective form of thought work because it ties everything together that we're covering in this episode. And this is what we teach our students what to do in Thriving Coach Academy. We teach them how to pinpoint the rules that are holding their clients back within just a few minutes into a session and help them come up with new rules that serve them. And when someone sees that they've been unconsciously following outdated rules, it opens the door to immediate breakthroughs, not just in their mindset, but in their action, in their results, how they show up in their lives. And that's why it works so fast. It's such a game changer. And if you want to learn this Rulebook coaching method, you want to see how it's going to transform the way you work with clients and the results that they get. If you want to become a master in it, then we'd love to teach you how to do it in Thriving Coach Academy. So I want to end by saying that if you've ever felt stuck in your mind, remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the one who gets to notice your thoughts. You get to question your thoughts. You get to choose what to believe moving forward. And the moment you realize that, you stop being a prisoner of your thinking and you become the author of your life. Your thoughts are powerful. But you are way more powerful than any single thought. And you don't have to wait for permission or for proof or for someone else to tell you it's okay to believe something new. You can choose new thoughts right now, and that single choice can change everything. All right, that's what I got in this episode on thought work. If you're enjoying the show, please take a moment and leave us a 5-star review. And before I finish this episode, I'm including an interview that I had with one of our coaches from inside Thriving Coach Academy. You're going to hear them share with you some of their biggest tips for what allowed them to be successful and how you can become successful too in coaching. So enjoy their story, and I will see you in the next episode.
I'm Chantel, and I'm from Montreal, Canada. I'm a recent graduate from Thriving Coach Academy, and I discovered coaching after I've come out of a really, really big burnout. I did a lot of research on myself, and I realized that I had done so much growth, and I would love to help other people grow in the same way so that they don't have to go through the whole burnout process like I did. So I did a lot of research online when it came to finding schools. And the first one that popped up for me actually was Thriving Coach Academy. And I said, okay, you know what, let me look elsewhere because it is quite a big investment. And there was some websites I opened and I just shut down right away. There was something about Thriving Coach Academy that was so inviting. The community that I built within Thriving Coach Academy and all the other wonderful coaches and all the instructors and everyone really made the experience worthwhile. It is a huge investment, but the investment you make in yourself and the transformation that you're going to see is going to be worth every penny. And if you were to meet me a year ago and meet me now, I'm a completely different person. I've signed on some clients. My niche, I found my niche. I am so passionate about healing families by breaking generational cycles when it comes to understanding neurodivergence and parenting skills that have been really transferred from one generation to the next. What I like about Thriving Coach Academy is really the community. There are so many wonderful coaches out there, and everyone is so helpful and encouraging. There is not one moment where I felt like I was left to my own devices. You have questions, you need support, there's always someone around. There's so much learning going on. The modules are created in a way that are so clear and concise. Every time you walk out of those modules, like there's a whole new world opening up because you've got so much knowledge from it. I'm in the process of transitioning from my full-time 9 to 5 to a full-time coaching business. This opportunity is going to allow me to work on my own hours, on my own time, but also to be able to travel as I do that. And traveling is my passion. Making money while pursuing my passion, which is something that was always said, no, you can't, that's not something you do. You work and then you pursue your passion elsewhere. But now I've really got the opportunity to combine both of them. If you're considering Thriving Coach Academy, I strongly, strongly recommend that you take that leap. It was a big decision for me, probably the biggest one I've ever made, but the investment is worth it for yourself and for your future. If coaching is a passion of yours, you're really going to be able to get all of the knowledge, the information, the support, and the personal transformation from joining the Academy. From the practice calls to the webinars to the business aspect, that's a huge, huge portion. It's a business aspect that's part of the course, and also the lifetime access to everything. You can rewatch everything a million times. You can participate in all of the practice calls as often as you like. And this lifetime support is so important because, sometimes we lose our way, and there's always going to be someone to bring you back and to remind you of the power that you hold. So to all you new students out there, welcome. And I strongly advise that you jump in with both feet. You do have the opportunity to do this at your own pace, which is great, but make sure that while you're there, you're fully attentive and you're absorbing all the wonderful energy and knowledge that you can. As a late diagnosed ADHD person, I was very worried about being able to follow all the classes, but the calls are made to be at 2 different times of the day. They're recorded. So even if you miss something during the live calls, you always have the opportunity to go back and rewatch it as often as you can. There's the auditory that's coming in. There's visuals. There's always slides when you're watching the webinars. There's many opportunities for questions. Overall, this experience has been life transforming. I can't emphasize that enough.
Hey, would you like access to powerful coaching tools you can use on yourself and clients right away? For being a listener of the podcast, I'm giving you a VIP guest pass to get a sneak peek into my coach training program. Inside, you'll learn our coaches' secret tool they use to transform their clients' lives. And you'll also get a training on how to launch a coaching business. Just head over to www.thrivingcoachacademy.com/VIP to get started. I'll see you on the inside.